Welcome to another episode of The Daily Threat, your trusted source for cybersecurity news. Today we have an action-packed episode featuring some alarming stories that have emerged from the ever-evolving world of cyber threats. But before we dive into the details, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, QIT Solutions, your go-to partner for all your cybersecurity needs. Now, let's jump right in. Our first story comes from the world of artificial intelligence, where former Google CEO Eric Schmidt has issued a stark warning about the existential risks associated with AI. According to an article published on CNBC, Schmidt believes that artificial intelligence could pose significant dangers if not regulated and managed carefully. Schmidt argues that AI algorithms, if left unchecked, could potentially cause unintended harm, such as manipulation of information, amplifying biases, or even putting human lives at risk. While AI has immense potential for positive transformation, Schmidt emphasizes the need for strong governance, oversight, and ethical considerations to prevent these risks from materializing. Now, let's shift our focus to the recent cyber threats that are causing havoc in the digital landscape. Our next story is about a new malware strain called PowerExchange, which has been targeting Microsoft Exchange servers, as reported by Bleeping Computer. PowerExchange malware acts as a backdoor, providing unauthorized access to the compromised Microsoft Exchange servers. This vulnerability could potentially allow attackers to steal sensitive data, inject malicious code, or even launch further attacks within the compromised network. So, how did the attackers get in? Well, the exact details of the initial infection vectors remain undisclosed, but it is crucial for organizations using Microsoft Exchange servers to keep their systems updated with the latest security patches. Regular patching and maintaining strong security hygiene are essential to prevent such intrusions. The risks posed by the PowerExchange malware are severe. It not only compromises the confidentiality and integrity of an organization's data, but also exposes them to potential legal and financial liabilities. Businesses need to be proactive in safeguarding their digital infrastructure against such threats. To mitigate the risks associated with PowerExchange malware and similar attacks, here are some best practices and recommendations to follow. Regularly update and patch your Microsoft Exchange servers with the latest security fixes provided by Microsoft. Implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, to strengthen access controls and reduce the chances of unauthorized access. Employ robust network monitoring and intrusion detection systems to detect suspicious activities within your network. Conduct regular security assessments and penetration testing to identify vulnerabilities and address them promptly. Educate your employees about phishing and social engineering techniques to prevent them from falling prey to such attacks. Implement a comprehensive backup and disaster recovery strategy to minimize the impact of potential data breaches. Engage with a trusted cybersecurity provider, such as our sponsor, QIT Solutions, to ensure you have the right tools, expertise, and support to protect your organization's digital assets. Moving on to our final story of the day, GitLab, a widely used DevOps platform, has recently identified a critical vulnerability that demands immediate attention. According to Bleeping Computer, GitLab strongly recommends patching a maximum severity flaw as soon as possible to prevent potential security breaches. The vulnerability, if exploited, could allow attackers to execute arbitrary code remotely and gain unauthorized access to GitLab instances. This could lead to the compromise of sensitive data, manipulation of source code repositories, or even the disruption of software development processes. Now, let's delve into how attackers could exploit this vulnerability. The details of the attack vectors are not disclosed in the article, but it's important to note that once a vulnerability is publicly known, it becomes a prime target for malicious actors. They actively scan for vulnerable systems, looking for opportunities to exploit them. To defend against this particular vulnerability and secure your GitLab instances, it is vital to apply the recommended patches and updates as soon as possible. Organizations should follow GitLab's instructions for remediation, which may involve upgrading to a patched version, applying security fixes, or implementing additional security measures. The risks posed by this vulnerability are significant. Unauthorized access to GitLab instances could lead to the theft of intellectual property, compromised customer data, and damage to a company's reputation. Additionally, if the compromised GitLab instance is responsible for software development, it may introduce vulnerabilities into the codebase, risking the security and integrity of future software releases. To minimize the risks associated with the GitLab vulnerability and similar threats, here are some recommended practices for organizations. Stay informed about the latest security vulnerabilities and updates specific to the software and platforms you rely on, such as GitLab. Regularly monitor official security advisories and announcements from the vendors. Establish a robust patch management process to ensure timely deployment of security updates. This includes testing patches in a controlled environment before applying them to production systems. Utilize vulnerability scanning and penetration testing to identify weaknesses in your infrastructure. Regular security assessments help identify and address vulnerabilities proactively. Implement strong access controls and least privilege principles to limit access to critical systems and sensitive data. Regularly review and update user permissions based on the principle of least privilege. Educate your development teams about secure coding practices and the importance of applying security updates promptly. Encourage the adoption of secure development methodologies, such as DevSecOps. Back up your GitLab repositories regularly and verify the integrity of backups to ensure data can be restored in the event of a breach or data loss. Engage with a trusted cybersecurity partner like QIT Solutions to perform a comprehensive security audit and assist with implementing appropriate security measures. Remember, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, and taking proactive steps to protect your organization's digital assets is essential. That's all for today's episode of the Daily Threat. We've covered some significant cybersecurity stories, from the potential risks of AI highlighted by Eric Schmidt to the threats posed by the PowerExchange malware and the GitLab vulnerability. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and take the necessary steps to protect your business from cyber threats. Before we go, I want to remind you to subscribe to the Daily Threat to stay up to date with the latest cybersecurity news, threat intelligence, and best practices. And a special thanks to our sponsor, QIT Solutions, for their continued support in bringing you this vital information. Stay safe, stay secure, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Threat.